Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Campus Consortium's Ed Talks iSeminar featuring University of Wisconsin-Madison. In today's presentation, we'll focus on the changing trends in higher ed with stronger cybersecurity. Our presenters today include Mr. Bob Turner, who is the Chief Information Security Officer at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and Annie Hugh, Vice President of Community Engagement at Campus Consortium. We'll take questions at the end of today's presentation that has been typed into the questions box or chat box in the GoToWebinar control panel. Without further ado, please allow me to present Ms. Hugh and Mr. Turner. Over to you, Ms. Hugh.
A very warm welcome to everyone and a happy Thanksgiving week. It's an honor for us to have Bob on this forum today to provide us with his valuable insights on changing trends in higher ed with cybersecurity. Bob's contribution to the field of cybersecurity entails the development and delivery of a comprehensive information security and privacy program. His previous experience includes managing consultants focused on cybersecurity policy, compliance with assessment of information, and cybersecurity inspection as a principal strength. Bob is also a key advisory board member of the Cybersecurity Hub. Bob, thank you so much for taking our time to connect with our audiences today. I would like to pass the platform over to you. We can begin with the iSeminar. We've got roughly about 50 institutions sitting on board, so over to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having me today. I hope that the weather where you're at is wonderful. In southeast or south central Wisconsin, it's a warm 33 degrees under cloudy skies. I say that because we're all thinking towards Thanksgiving and the fact that we're supposed to be going in a one-horse open sleigh somewhere, and I'm not exactly sure, but I plan on staying indoors this week. What I'd like to do is walk through some slides and just talk about the things that I've observed in higher education over the last 3 years that I have been involved. I joined the university as their Chief Information Security Officer in January of 2015. And what I arrived to was a really great group of security professionals who are eager to practice their craft. And it was easy to mold them just slightly, give them a little bit of guidance. Since that time that I have arrived, a couple of things we've done is we've created a cybersecurity strategy for the university, and we've actually been acting on it. And a lot of times you find those strategies are nothing but shelfware, and everybody just goes on about doing their business. But we consciously focused on some real key components. The first thing we did was we established data governance. We did that in partnership with the university's chief data officer, a gentleman named Jason Fishbane, who's just a very smart data scientist and understands how governance should work. We also set about increasing awareness of the issues that are common in higher education as well as in the industry. The other thing we did, which is pretty important, is we established a risk management framework. And the idea with that is to understand the systems that we have to deal with and where the potential vulnerabilities might be in those systems. We tried very hard, and we are succeeding in a lot of fronts on creating smarter and more efficient processes. One of the things that higher education, that if you've been in the industry a little while, you understand that it's all about doing things that will not impede teaching and learning, and that will promote research. And that is one of our kind of everyday living mantras. But sometimes you have to ask people to take a tactical pause and make sure that the controls are set correctly. So we've been dealing with those, and we're actually in a very strong security posture, in my opinion. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit more about the things that make up our university. This is a very simplified drawing of the University of Wisconsin's network, you'll see. But it is really about having a strong, diverse portfolio that we're managing here on the university. We have all manner of access to our network via wireless, via connections, via partnerships and VPNs with other universities within the system, and also our partner research institutions. University of Wisconsin is rated in the top end of research universities across the nation, and even up in the top end of the world research universities. We do everything from health sciences, healthcare, social engineering, but that's not right. Social science research, as well as we're one of the premier universities for veterinary science and agricultural research. We do a great deal of computer science research. We are number 11 right now. We're hoping to get into the top 10. And we also have some world-renowned School of Business and law schools in our portfolio. There is roughly 34 businesses within the university, and all of them have a need for doing some sort of information technology use. A lot of it with data that we want to make sure we're protecting. But the main three things we focus on, if you think of the triangle of cybersecurity, availability is king. What I need to make sure is that nothing we do will prevent a teacher from accessing a site they need to teach their class, a student from accessing a learning management system to check their grades or turn in assignments, or a researcher from being able to get at their data they need to do a specific part of their research. So integrity and confidentiality take an important role, but secondary to making sure networks are available. So by the numbers, we have about 43,000 students and 22,000 staff that are functioning at our university any given day during the school year. Our 100 gig backbone supports over 700 different networks, which if you counted them all up and counted all the endpoints and servers, we're talking about, roughly 100,000 usable IPs. Our wireless systems support right around 70,000 connections per day, and of those, a great deal of them are bring your own device environments. The average student is showing up with somewhere around 5 and sometimes as many as 8. And I think we identified at this specific student that had actually 12 connected devices in a recent assessment we did. We also provide hotel services. Our residence hall internet service provider is actually mainly our wireless system. We have classrooms that are an engineered wireless system. We do have a couple of key tools that I always like to tout, is that we've embraced the Palo Alto Networks Advanced Threat Protection package, and we use Palo Alto and ClearPass to protect our wireless. We also have their Global Protect VPN, and although we're still using it, we are phasing out the Cisco AnyConnect VPNs for remote users. It's not only students that can remote in and faculty that can remote in, it's also developers, program managers, and others in our robust environment where we're developing common systems in human resources management, financial management, as well as student information systems. We also help administer learning management systems for the university, as well as some of our connected UW system friends. UW system is a constellation of 26 campuses, 13 of which are 2-year campuses, 11 of which are 4-year campuses, and then there are 2 that are primarily research universities with the ability to grant doctorates. So large environments. Diversity is our strength, and I think that the diversity that we have in not only the thought process that goes on, the staff that we have, but it's also the technology we have. When I arrived here, I was surprised to find out that we still had a lot of NT in our environment, Windows NT, but that also didn't surprise me that we still had even earlier versions of Windows running specific equipment in laboratories. It just makes sense. If it's working and the research is still going on, there should be no reason why we should swap out, especially if we have the opportunity to have that system or that laboratory isolated. The other thing about diversity is the makeup of our team. One of the things we have concentrated in over the last 3 years is making sure that the Office of Cybersecurity reflected the cyber community as a whole. So we have made some conscious choices to hire the best skilled and the most diverse workforce that we can, and that's given the environment and the opportunities that we have to bring on new staff. If there's one thing I'll stress is that higher education needs to maintain that diversity if we're going to have the greatest opportunity to find the truth in all situations. One of the University of Wisconsin-Madison and the University of Wisconsin systems great lines is that education is all about the continuous sifting and winnowing in search of the truth. And I think that in the cybersecurity community, we need to, just as much as the researchers and academics do, we need to be sifting and winnowing through the fields of cybersecurity to make sure that we are getting the absolute best truth that we can for our constituents. So ask yourself, how do we secure such a broad and diverse network? Well, a lot of it has to do with understanding where you're at. Pardon me. You know, in the world of advanced persistent threats, you need to make sure you have a plan and you shop around the industry carefully to get the best capabilities and the best return on investment. One of my early mentors in life said, even the most expensive system has a limit to how much you can spend on security in order not to ruin your return on investment. So your mileage may vary in a lot of these situations. So I guess my advocacy and one of the things we can do to continue keeping higher education relevant and keeping our data secure is make sure that you are looking for the best protections you can get. You know, remote connections are necessary in the world. We have remote connections for our students, obviously, through the wireless network. We have remote connections for academic interaction between researchers and teaching and learning. We have online courses that are absorbed by our students remotely. And we also make sure that as we administer those courses and those learning management systems, that we're doing so with the appropriately conditioned privacy controls, virtual private networks. But also, in the case of our Palo Alto Global Protect VPN, provide us with intrusion prevention capability. We actually have deployed in several areas now, and we've had a lot of success in that. If your university is looking towards working in that area, certainly there are a lot of vendors out there that are willing to help you understand, but look for the one that's actually going to partner with you and become a real close relationship owner with you and your constituents and your university. How much inter-university research is done in your organization is important. You need to be able to protect those links. You need to be able to understand who is on the other end of that connection with your university's information networks and systems. You know, there are a lot of ways to change the trend and have that cooperation and really have those true partnerships with your researchers and with their partners. But at the end of the day, it's the events that happen in your university and the systems you control that you have to make sure you are well aware of and you're managing appropriately. Does your system, does your campus, do your departments inside of your campus want centralized management? That's something that you need to ask yourself. A lot of universities are distributed in their governance, they're distributed in their IT support, but frankly, efficient management and effective management of security is trending in a lot of the instances I have seen and with the folks I've talked to towards more centralized management. If it's just within the campus or if the central IT division is providing services to the distributed departments on campus, getting in the same mindset and securing at the same level is an important feature that higher education is getting around to. I see this in a lot of places, specifically when you're talking about conference and university system cooperation. In the Big Ten world where University of Wisconsin lives, we have the Big Ten Academic Alliance, and we actually have a couple of really strong security networks in that environment. The chief information security officers from all of the Big Ten campuses get together on a regular basis. And we also, at least once a quarter, have a meeting of our key security teams, what we call the Security Working Group. It rotates in between the campuses. Ownership comes with the opportunity to provide breakfast and lunch, but it also provides an opportunity for some really good coordination and collaboration between the university campuses. I'm fortunate that the Big Ten already had this going when I got here, and it is certainly something worth embracing. But when you get down to the local level, does your campus have a security community that gets together and deals with the important cybersecurity issues on your campus? Your distributed IT teams, if you're in that environment, certainly can benefit from it. You can benefit from the connections you'll make, because at the end of the day, if your unit is in charge of security for the campus, or you're the ones principally that are going to be reporting to leadership, it's best to know that you're backed by a strong team of people that are going to help you and also north and south when you say, here's the right thing to do. Other trends that I see is that universities are trying to establish relationships with state and federal agencies. In the Wisconsin government, I have a very close relationship with the state CIO and their Department of Enterprise Technology, as well as their CISO at the Department of Administration and the Department of Health Services. These kind of relationships are very important in order to understand how your organization is operating and how it fits into the state's plans for things like cyber disruption. If you think of the critical infrastructure and key resources world, although there's not an education pillar in the 16 sectors of critical infrastructure, you certainly have an opportunity to be players in that particular field, either by providing advice, doing consultations with the different sectors, or simply learning from them. Energy distribution is important, and it is one of the areas where our state is focusing on making sure we don't have a cyber disruption event, but they're also making sure that the other sectors are covered. Another focus area that I think is important is understanding how your capabilities are created and how your services are going out to not only the central IT, but also the distributed IT organizations on campus. Research environments and non-learning management system environments such as administration, the law enforcement on your campus, Internet of Things with facilities and plant management. Those all can consume a lot of your time, but they're necessary areas for the university cybersecurity team to be involved with. Understanding how building access and remote camera systems are operating on campus is important, because there are those intersections with security and privacy you need to worry about. And the final area, I guess, is a way to promote stronger cybersecurity is understanding how you're deploying your cybersecurity tools. Number one, are you working with campus to come up with the tools that will work across campus? Are you encouraging that centralized purchase, or at least the economy of scale that you can get with a larger purchase amongst not only your university, but you, like Wisconsin, have a very strong and large university system? That makes the vendors stand up and notice when they think they have an opportunity to market a larger audience. But don't cut the vendors any slack. Make sure you're getting the best product. The other thing we've done at the University of Wisconsin is when we developed our Security Operations Center capability over the last couple of years, we developed what we call the playbook. Little things like SQL injection testing we monitor on a daily basis for evidence that folks are trying to break in through that particular vector. But we also share the processes, not only amongst our divisional distributed IT folks, but also among the other universities in the system. You know, a lot of campuses are building SOCs, and a lot of systems are building SOCs. And having a solid playbook is a good place to start. I think that one of the other things that is important to point out, and I'll advertise once again for my Big Ten Academic Alliance colleagues, is that there is a concept we call OmniSOC, which is developing a security operations capability that can be seen as a service for the members of our academic alliance, as well as, you know, potentially as a backup for your own capability if that's something you're fielding. I think it's important to understand that in the big scheme of things, operations is something that everybody has to do, and the more you're sharing, the better off you're going to be at the end of the day. Share the processes, share the procedures, be willing to share that threat intelligence data that you gather. And if you're getting services from a managed service provider, you know, make sure that contract will allow you to share within, obviously limited to what the contract clauses say, the environments that you work with. So what keeps a higher education CISO awake at night? This is one of my favorite questions. I will tell you that my quick response is I really like police dramas, and there's a lot of good reading to do out there, so that stuff keeps me up at night. But in all seriousness, the challenges that we show here are very much challenges to keep your teams active and keep them understanding what's going on. You know, many of the courses that our universities are teaching now require inside the classroom interaction with websites, high volume data, and, you know, all sorts of resources on campus and off campus. We sort of blurred the lines in certain cases where research that uses personally identifiable information and private health information and other regulated data, that we want the research to happen, but we also want it to happen so that we're not exposing that high and moderate risk data. It's a very strong concern, and when you spill the data, you have to worry about it's not just your data. You could potentially be spilling data from other universities and other environments. We could spend probably an entire webinar going through the examples in higher education over the last 3 years, and we probably wouldn't get through at least 60% of them if we spent an hour and a half. Mobility is also a huge factor. The way the campuses are constructed, a lot of the older buildings are not wireless friendly. They have that wire mesh with plaster over them, and they become their own little Faraday cages inside of the classroom. It's really kind of fun to watch, but it's really inconvenient when you're trying to promote wireless classrooms and research laboratories throughout an older campus. Newer construction, LEED certified buildings are a helper, but you still have to be interested in how your campus is wired. Students are bringing their own devices. Staff are bringing their own devices. There are research projects that are stood up with a P card and a trip to Best Buy. Those are things that are reality factors that the security teams in higher education need to worry about. But it's also opportunities for getting a better understanding of how your institution is wired, so you can secure it better. Universities are providing hotel services as well, and it's important to understand that the proliferation of mobile devices, cloud-based applications are certainly the things that we need to be concerned about. Remember that in a cloud environment, when you hand them over your data, it is still your data. And it's your data that you're held accountable to, especially if your data includes student identities, staff, personal information, and university, patentable invention, research, etc. You have to be careful of IT silos within your university, those distributed IT departments I've been talking about. A lot of them are taking care of themselves, and they do it quite well. But the question is, are they reporting to a central university office that can keep track of what the university is doing? I always like to say that at the end of the day, it's the university's president or chancellor that's standing in front of the camera and giving that mea culpa video saying, we're really sorry for spilling 60,000 of your identities on the internet. It's important that you understand what's going on and that you have that understanding of the silos and distributed governance organizations that can be on campus. Okay, so that's the cynical CISO. That's the stuff that keeps me up at night. But the things that excite me, the things that make me want to go to work every day, is the fact that collaboration is the key to success. This means that my team has a strong need to be on the road and in front of the technologists and the managers and the executives in every department on campus. Important that we all understand that one of the strongest things we can do as security professionals is educate and make people aware of the things that they can and should do. That's an opportunity. Every time you go out, you will learn something. Every time you go out and you have that interaction, you will find out things that will make your university more secure. I think the industry as a whole is moving in this direction. I think the higher education has always been collaborative. So this is not necessarily new, but it's a continued opportunity that cybersecurity professionals and your teams have to understand and promote. The trend is obviously to share and advise. One of the things that some of our constituents and our customers are asking for is share, advise, and guide. So make sure that you're leaving that opportunity open every time you have a chance to, preach that righteous gospel of cybersecurity and provide solutions that are easy to manage and easy to learn from. You should be doing that. And probably the last opportunity is the fact that the generation X, Y, and Z folks that are in our universities or coming into our universities, they were all born tech savvy. Out of the box. You need to get used to them solving problems that you never knew you had. I enjoy the conversations where we talk about, are you going to have a bug bounty program? You may have one already and don't know it. The trend in higher education students is that they are wiser, they are more curious, and they are willing to reach out and find things and report them. Every one of those is a learning opportunity, in my opinion. One of the things that we are doing at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in that rate is our Security Operations Center frontline operators are actually student interns. We have 8 seats that we man 8 hours a day. We're staffing up for that. And that means that we're having an opportunity to engage those Gen X, Y, and Z people who are willing to learn, willing to dig, willing to understand, and I think that their education is better for that. So what's the road ahead look like? I think that a couple of things that are in everybody's mind is, what is your cloud strategy? Are you cloud aware, or are you cloud first, or are you somewhere in the middle? Box, SharePoint, Google Docs, Dropbox, they're all competing for your business in a very tight market. And you have to make sure that you're able to engage with those type of systems as a service. You also need to understand that, brick and mortar data centers are costly to maintain. Cloud is easy. Distributed commercial provided data centers are easy to spin up and use and get architectures deployed rapidly. But the thing you have to remember, again, as I said earlier, it's still your data. I don't know if I have seen too many cloud contracts where the vendor has willingly said, yeah, we'll take responsibility for your data, and if we lose it, we'll find it and give it back to you. No, I don't think you're going to see that contract out there. You can also buy data protection, but the report will say that, when the spill actually happens, it's still going to say, the name of your university announced the breach of 60,000 records from their cloud system. You have to be prepared for that, and you have to understand that preparation is the key there. Make sure that you understand that cloud has a great impact, a positive impact on collaborative learning. Sharing of data is easier, faster, and it can be secured appropriately if you deploy your architectures correctly. Mobile devices, cybersecurity in the environment is there. Do you have a mobile device plan at your university? A lot of them are developing now. That's a trend I have seen in many discussions with my colleagues across the higher education world. Mobility is a big influencer. Do you deploy mobile apps from an application store, and do you vet those apps appropriately before you place them in that store? One of the things you can be sure of is that applications in the Apple Store or in the Google environment or any of the other popular means of deploying mobile applications, they have an opportunity to vet those applications, but it's not the same as if you're deploying your own apps from your own application store, or you're giving applications you've developed over to one of those other distributors. You're responsible for the applications you deploy. And of course, mobile device management. That's one of the newer trends, and this is the one thing that higher education is working on, and I've seen some positive movement lately. When you deploy mobile solutions across campus, if you're deploying the equipment, are you deploying them in a management structure? Think of it as a big fix for the mobile world, or SCCM for the mobile world. You have to make sure that the devices you're deploying are capable of being managed, especially if they're university-owned devices. Excuse me. And I'll even venture to say if it's BYOD that is handling sensitive or restricted data, moderate risk or high risk data in a NIST context, you have to make sure that you're deploying them appropriately so you can secure the devices, and if necessary, if the device is lost or stolen, you can render that device useless as far as getting at your data or gaining access to your systems. Another concept I think is important is understanding how your teaching and research applications are developed. At the University of Wisconsin-Madison, one of the great things that we have done is we've created an environment we call TRAD, and on the slide there it shows Teaching and Research Application Development. That's actually being run in our one of our university environments by our Academic Technologies group, and in effect what they're doing is walking people through the development of classroom or course specific systems. And the thing that I like about it is that when the academic technologists get together, they can promote those things that are important to teaching and learning and pedagogy. Active learning, are they helping to create learner-centered technology, and making sure that the deep learning experiences for students are available online and at the student's schedule. One of the other things that they do is they help us understand how to measure the student performance and how to provide that feedback to the student as they're learning. One of the other things about the TRAD program at the university is that they're into the same things I've been talking about. Partnerships, making sure that you have opportunities for academic planning and institutional research to collaborate with engineering education. Make sure that the Division of Continuing Studies has an opportunity for their certificate courses to be offered and available and relevant to the communities that want to see them. And it's also making sure that you're giving an opportunity for your university to participate in something that almost every university is involved in, and that's outreach to the community. Academic Technologies in our university is very involved in developing IT leadership opportunities and interfacing with students and their families. We have an Information Technology Academy that is actually part of our university that really focuses on pre-college technology access and training some rather diverse communities of students so that they have opportunities to get into places like the University of Wisconsin-Madison and other high-end educational opportunities. I think that's probably one of the shining components of our university, and it is well worth having an opportunity to be part of that. Let's talk about the big buzzwords out there. Artificial intelligence, big data, data analytics. Higher education is an opportunity to be a leader in those areas as businesses are really coming to grip with the amount of information that is out there and how they can utilize that information for greater opportunity. This again is another hour-and-a-half webinar, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here other than say that there is a cybersecurity play in each area where you're handling large volumes of data, where you're dealing with intelligence systems that are self-healing heuristic or have the ability to give you better information out of mounds of data. If you have a security incident and event management infrastructure at your campus, you are probably using some sort of data analytics to figure out what is going on in your environment and enabling yourself to take appropriate actions there. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of great things going on in higher education. I guess I'm here to encourage you to be the security people who continue to ask those questions. How can I help you? What kind of data do you have? What are the things that we're willing to work together on in order to better define how the university's security posture works. If you're a member of one of those distributed IT organizations and you're on the call today, I'm going to tell you that you need to reach out to your central IT and security teams and really work together with them. All of us are smarter than one of us at the end of the day. And remember, at the end of the day, it's the university's chancellor that gets to stand before that camera when you've hemorrhaged a great deal of sensitive data, or you've had an incident on campus that is traceable to any one of the IT systems on campus. I know that they don't say the Office of Cybersecurity is the one who spilled data. They say the University of Wisconsin-Madison has spilled data. And that's probably where I'll end it. And I'll ask that if you have questions, let's go ahead and get them out in the air.
Sure, Bob. Thank you so much for that. Those valuable comments and insights as to what you've been doing and bringing these changing trends implemented at University of Wisconsin and Madison. We do have a couple of questions from the audiences. We have one from all the way from Puerto Rico. Even after the aftermath of the hurricanes, we've been joined by Luis Gonzalez, who's the CIO at Ana Jiménez University System. His question to you is, what has been your biggest challenges in getting the acceptance of the academic and research community on the needs to implement cybersecurity platform?
Yeah, it's a really good question. In my experience, the biggest hurdle is understanding what their needs are and asking the right questions. We have on board our campus, part of our recently revised IT governance organization, a group they call the Research Technology Advisory Group. They work to support the Information Technology Steering Committee, who influences things that are happening on campus. Things like we now have a project intake process. If you're trying to develop a project which could be useful for campus, in order for us to understand how the IT money is being spent and where it's going and what capabilities we actually have, the Research and Technology Advisory Group provides advice on systems they see. This is an interesting community of people because they are all way smarter than I ever could be, but they also understand that their focus is on sifting and winnowing and searching for the truth. It's not necessarily on filling out paperwork or having their systems taken down for a broad spectrum vulnerability scan. Getting to know what their curiosities are and what their triggers are is the single thing that has kept me still functioning in the position since I arrived at the university. But it's also an area that I have to pay constant attention to. Have a seat at the table with them. Get engaged with them. Find out what their issues are, and don't be afraid to say, you know what, that makes perfect sense. That if they're spinning up an information technology system and it's for a short-term research project that is going to last about 6 months, go and do good things is my answer. Because by the time we get around to assessing that system and finding out if it's built right, number one, the opportunity to conduct the research may have gone, but also they can also be done. So make sure that you're flexible in that and make sure that you're constantly interactive and talking with them on that particular topic.
Thank you, Bob, for answering that for us. We have another question from Luciana Broussard from Texas Southern University. And her question is, my main problem at present is users finding ways to remote into systems on campus. How do you recommend I defend against inside hacking? What systems can I put in place to capture these inside intrusions? IPM plus user interact is what they are using. Where can I find standards and setup of AD and remote desktop? I need to tighten my security by giving my IT teammates the proper rights based on their roles in the department. Please advise.
That's like about 6 questions there. So for the sake of time, I'm gonna answer. I'm gonna give you kind of 3 strategies. Number one, it's important that you understand where the high risk and moderate risk data are. you need to control remote access to those systems more than anything else. So if your strategy is to create those virtual private networks and use multi-factor authentication, then you're on the right path. You should be able to have administrators remote in like we do into our HR system, and arguably one of the most valuable systems on campus for the criminal syndicate is getting a hold of all of the information for 22,000 employees, 33,000 or 43,000 students, and however many years back we can go in keeping that data online. So make sure that you're isolating that access to those systems. The other thing is understanding that virtual local area networks and microsegmentation are your friends. If they're needing to get into systems that are not restricted data systems or sensitive data systems, provide that opportunity by placing your crown jewels inside of a very well protected network, and the rest of it leaving it open so that the people who need to get into the systems can get into the systems. This doesn't relieve you from the responsibility to make sure that those systems are secured, but it kind of lowers the bar a little bit on the things you have to do to make systems more secure. As for the specific application, I would be very happy to help give you advice on that. I'm not sure if we're going to make my contact information available, but certainly if you contact Campus Consortium, they can pass your information on to me, and I can help you from afar. I'm very happy to do that. I think that all of higher ed wins when we do that kind of collaboration.
Thank you, Bob, once again. And I think, it really helps when people collaborate and they share the experiences and help one another. It's a very, I wouldn't say it's a small community, but it's Thanksgiving week, and I think anybody who was willing to share, right, the experiences and the effort will just make a difference to those who cannot afford it or don't have that much of intellect or knowledge, in smaller universities or private colleges. I'm coming down to the last question for the day, right? And the question for you is that can you talk a little bit about the incident response plan? Let's say if there is a cybersecurity attack on campus, then what kind of incident response plan should one have on campus? And are there any defining SLAs to that?
Well, so my two favorite metrics in the cybersecurity world are the mean time to detect vulnerabilities and the mean time to remediate. And I'm hoping that the distance between the two is a very small distance. Your information incident response, your IT incident response plan needs to be robust and include a cross-campus community in order to be successful. I have spoken at other forums about how we do incident response at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I'm not necessarily, opening up the keys to the castle when I tell you that our plan is well published. We routinely talk about it in the forums that we're in, and we include every step of the incident response life cycle. Now, whether you're going off the NIST model or if you're going off of another model, have a model that identifies where the issues might be. It deploys protective measures to watch those systems. And then if an issue occurs, you figure out what the issue is rapidly, isolate the issue rapidly, and then make sure that you can respond and recover rapidly. And then the last phase that I think is really important is collecting those lessons learned. At the University of Wisconsin-Madison, we convene for incidents that involve the loss of data or potentially reportable to the state of Wisconsin under state laws, or if we have any federal reporting requirements like HIPAA, FERPA, and some of the other red flags or other rules. This incident response team consists of my frontline staff, consists of our IT leadership on campus. It's in a distributed environment. Their IT and executive leaders are invited to be part of the team, but we also include university communications. We also include legal. We also include risk management, and we also include our compliance organization. In an event we had just about a year ago, that team was assembled rapidly after we figured out what had gone on. And so that incident, I'm just going to give you a couple bits of information that will help out to understand how a well-managed incident response program can work. The event started early in the morning, just before 8 o'clock. We had discovered it almost immediately, and we had been informing the distributed IT organization that it affected, and that notification was done at 9 o'clock, and the system was isolated and the problem resolved by 9:30. And then we had to go through all of the rest of the steps of our initial triage actions, but we were making reports to campus, and we were kind of opening up the lines of communication that day. So in less than a day, the opportunity to collaborate and get things under control was really saving us. The subsequent investigation and the subsequent response actions of notifying the victims and making the public announcements, that's why the states normally give you 30 to 45 days to make those announcements and make sure that you've informed everybody who needs to be informed, because that's not an easy process. Your incident response program or plan needs to include, who the right people to call are. If you have cyber insurance, or how involved do they want to be, your carrier want to be, and their particular vendors need to be in your response and notification process. You can read about our incident response if you go to our website. And again, I'll be happy to hand over that information to the Campus Consortium so y'all can take a look at it. But have a plan, have an understanding of what has to happen at your university and who the key players are. And always, always, always be ready to be standing behind your chancellor when that chancellor has to make that mea culpa video.
Thank you, Bob, for answering that question. We do have Luciana's email address. She pinged it to me just in a bit. So I will be introducing her to you shortly on another follow-up email. I think we've come to the end of today's session. I'd like to first thank you again. It's an honor for you to be here addressing our audiences from time to time. I'd like to thank our audience for joining us today. Campus Consortium has been dedicated to host these kind of ed talks, to bring contribution to the higher ed community and build some kind of community engagement for institutions that join us. Our next ed talk will feature Purdue University, for those who are on this meeting, on groundbreaking engagement strategies to drive enrollment in higher ed. The ed talk will be scheduled for December 5th from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern. Just before I go, I'd like to go over my last slides about Campus Consortium and sign off for the day. So I'm just going to quickly take over presenter control. So for folks who've joined us today, I just want to let you know that Campus Consortium has been running a lot of initiatives and programs to help higher ed, and one of them has been the grant programs. We've already awarded more than $10.1 million in this year in itself in terms of grant for mobile campus, single sign-on and identity, studio grant, help desk grant, Office 365 migration, campus safety. We have a whole bunch of awardees. You'll be seeing them on our social media sites from time to time. We want to do well for them. We want to help them out, and this is the best way to go about it, that you can go ahead and apply for these grants. Moving forward for these grants, what we cover is basically the implementation and licensing costs in a few categories, while the others may provide some discounts. This is also open to public sector organizations, K-12 institutions as well. I think what we need to do to give these grants to institutions is just know that they demonstrate a commitment, that they really require the solution on campus, and we're willing to help them out. If you want to apply, you can visit our website at campusconsortium.org, or simply submit your grant applications or send in a query at grantapplications@campusconsortium.org. You'll be receiving this deck via email in a follow-up email. And if you have any questions, if you still want to connect with Bob or get in touch with us, you can simply send in either your details to info@campusconsortium.org, right, or to apply for the grant applications at campusconsortium.org. Well, once again, thank you very much. Thank you to our patient audience. Have a great day. This is Annie Hughes signing off from Chicago. Have a great day. Bye-bye.